Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Let's start with some home thoughts. This one is from Jack Kerouac. All our best men are laughed at in this nightmare land. It's a play on W.B. Yeats. The best lack all conviction. This photograph caught my attention. It's Viagra marketing pitch source Bloomberg. And I put in brackets, the photograph ranks up there in the Roland Barthes pantheon of photography. It signifies a lot, I think. The photograph is literally an emanation of the referent. From a real body which was there proceed radiations which ultimately touch me who am here. The duration of the transmission is insignificant. The photograph of the missing being, as Sontag says, will touch me like the delayed rays of a star. It's an interesting writer. That was from Camera Lucida, Reflections on Photography. The Saudi Arabian Crown Prince is actually turning out to be the true buyer of the Leonardo da Vinci Salvator Mundi. Record $450 million. This follows hot on the heels of a record purchase of a yacht for $550 million. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has undertaken an anti-corruption campaign, bought the painting using a distant relative as a proxy, the newspaper said Thursday, citing a source in the US government intelligence community and a Saudi art world figure familiar with the purchase. It didn't identify either person. This is a photograph of the Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci. It was sold for a very knockdown price not too many years ago because a lot of people didn't think it was really a Leonardo da Vinci. So there's quite a big backstory to all of this, this particular painting. 13th of November, I wrote a piece about the Crown Prince, and I called it the capture of a 32-year-old wannabe king. It's an interesting purchase, Salvator Mundi. This is a photograph by Getty Images, and of course, deeply symbolic because it's a photograph of Jesus Christ, and the Crown Prince is the Crown Prince of the two holy sites in Saudi Arabia as well. Leonardo da Vinci said, "Once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been, and there you will always long to return." He also said a painter should begin every canvas with a wash of black, because all things in nature are dark except where exposed by the light. The Louvre Abu Dhabi is getting the $450 million Da Vinci painting. Apparently, Abu Dhabi and the Crown Prince are seriously well aligned across the board. These are photographs I took of the Louvre Abu Dhabi before it opened. In point of fact, we went to Abu Dhabi on a visit meeting and took the chance to go and have a look. There had a few paintings up. It was a structure which was quite extraordinary. Here's one example, and there's another. 7 of the best dishes in London you should go eat right now. This is Richard Vines on Bloomberg. I couldn't resist it. Potted pig head, not to eat necessarily, but just because of what it said. Potted pig head with blood, masala, onions, ghoul and sepoy. For just £8, Ghoul and Sepoy, a new Indian brasserie in East London, has a bloody good dish that gives your taste buds a bit of a kicking rather than just tickling them. Pig's head is braised for more than 4 hours in secret spices, which appear to include fenugreek, which is a spice I am not fond of, because it tends to sort of secrete from your skin for about 3 days. I had the misfortune to have a dinner once at a place just around the corner here where there was a sitting tenant with a restaurant, a very strange place. And I once went there with my uncle, who likes to sort of go to these, what he calls realist places to eat, and that was one of them. Subsequently, that tenant got bought out for millions of dollars by the Chinese, who are building now a 53-floor multi-story project next door. Anyway, let's get back to this pig's head. Inspired by a mix from the Coorg region of Karnataka in South India, the meat is pulled apart, served in a flower pot, layered with onions that have been cooked down with pig's blood and masala. The dish is topped with wheatgrass to satisfy your soul. And apparently, if that's not enough excitement for you, there are crispy pig's ears too. Then I like this dish as well, Srabua by Kin Kin 1 star. This is Michelin Guide. Let's get serious political reflections. It would be difficult to imagine anything more provocative, dangerous, or just plain insane than for the Americans to move their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This is Robert Fisk of The Independent. An Israeli dream might come true if Trump announces Jerusalem as Israel's capital, but so will an Arab nightmare. The calculation is that things might flare, but will flare out, flame out. In aviation, a flame out refers to the rundown of a jet engine caused by the extinction of the flame in the combustion chamber. I think, the Israelis are at the epicenter of crowd control, that level of intrusion which I'm sure allows them to know what practically everybody is doing in the area. I doubt that the Palestinians have the stomach. It's entirely unfortunate on their part, but it's a power principle. I remember when I sat for Westminster, one of the questions I got was might is right, and ultimately that's what's going to happen, I think. And that might is right is shown here, a powerful image. Palestinians go on strike over Trump move. Take a look at that. Then this lady who Trump retweeted, Jada at Britain First, tweeted, "Trump takes over Jerusalem." The Hamas leader Haniyeh calls for a new intifada against Israel over Jerusalem. We demand, call, and will launch an intifada in the face of the Zionist occupation. He said in a speech Thursday, Jerusalem is being kidnapped and ripped from us. In the Arab world, there's an enormous gulf between rhetoric and action. You'll find people deploying high-flown rhetoric all over the place. Saddam Hussein and his cohorts were a prime example. Delivering action on the ground, which makes a difference. It's not the same thing. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, there is clearly some abnormalities of his speech, he said. You could call it slurring or just a little bit of difficulty forming the words. And Trevor Noah had fun with that. Donald slurs through a White House address. The link is there. David Yarrow tweeted this, and have a look at the background building. It is just a matter of time. Putin is to run for a re-election in Russia, predictably. Gary Kasparov asked, did he also announce the results? Would save everyone a lot of time and effort, he said. And this is where I disagree with Gary Kasparov. Vladimir Putin, I think, on all the available evidence, wins these elections, all ends up. In October 2015, I wrote about how he was a geopolitical grandmaster. I was referring to his intervention at Unga when he asked, what have you done? And promptly intervened in Syria. And 25 months later, we've seen that he's brought it largely a messy situation to a conclusion. December 2016, I wrote that piece about how he was an information master and his adversaries are his information victims. I was referencing his intervention in the US election. I was quoting Don DeLino. The specialist is monitoring data on his mission console when a voice breaks in, a voice that carried with it a strange and unspecifiable poignancy. Somehow I find that quite powerful, that unspecifiable poignancy is how you'd imagine the voice. He checks in with his flight dynamics and conceptual paradigm officers of Colorado Command, the gobbledygook of some of these institutions is in that language. We have a deviate tomahawk. We copy, there's a voice. We have gross oscillation here. There's some interference. I've gone redundant, but I'm not sure it's helping. We're clearing an out frame to locate source. Thank you, Colorado. It is probably just selective noise. You are negative red on the step function quad. It was a voice, I told them. We've just received an affirm on selective noise. We will correct tomahawk. Meantime, we advise you to stay redundant. And this somehow I find powerful as well. The voice, in contrast to Colorado's metallic pidgin, is a melange of repartee, laughter, and song with a quality of purest, sweetest sadness. Somehow we were picking up signals from radio programs 40, 50, 60 years ago. And I said, then I have no doubt that Putin ran a seriously 21st century, predominantly digital program of interference which amplified the Trump candidacy. Trump was an ideal candidate for this kind of support. In this photograph, you see Putin hugging Assad, and this was an outsized geopolitical statement. What it said is that Russia is back in the game and that they can be relied on to save. They are a reliable ally, and I think that was, what this was signifying. Tillerson is to visit Africa in the first quarter of 2018. Truly a miracle. Ojal survived a night of intense fire, city official says. This is California. It's a church. And then these two photographs photograph a shoot with unusual light. Look at that beach scene. Isn't it amazing? At Wednesday's sunset, as fire in the hills of the 101 freeway north of Ventura put up a cloud of smoke that creates the red glow. That's Alceba photo. The Trump administration's reaction to the breadth and scope of BRI has been somewhat minimalistic, says Pepe Escobar. Interesting article. Indo-Pacific includes South Asia and the Indian Ocean, so from an American point of view, that does imply elevating India to the status of a rising global superpower able to contain China. And I've written about this severally, about the Indian Ocean. You'll remember Shinzo Abe came here and talked about how Japan wanted to exert influence over the confluence of the South China Sea and the Indian Ocean. This essay by Pepe Escobar is exploring, how the Indian Ocean has become central. The linguistics, the US administration using Indo-Pacific in order to widen the arena. The Japanese and Indian response to the Chinese. It's very interesting. So take a read if you're interested. It's on rich wrap-ups. For all the Fed raising interest rates, Fed tightening cycle has not, in fact, yet begun. And look at this from Olga, which explains financial conditions have actually eased as the Fed has tightened. Have a look at this currency volatility from bond vigilantes to give you an idea. The Rand, of course, is the most volatile currency of them all, unless you accept Bitcoin into that classification. Euro dollar 117.50. The dollar's been strengthening over the last 48 hours. Dollar index has gone through 93.50, 93.84. Japanese yen 113.44. Swiss franc 0.9958. The pound 134.57. But it looks as if they've got a deal now, finally. The Australian dollar, where are we there? 0.7506. India rupee 64.505. South Korean won 10.93.40, Brazilian real 329.09, Egyptian pound 17.798, and the rand, which had a very strong run from 14.40 to below 13.50, is now back at 13.74.69. What a difference a year makes. The pound is one of 2018's hottest picks. It was above 135 earlier, and now it's at 134.62. Dollar index back above that key level about which I've spoken so frequently. We're at 93.84, above 93.50. Societe Generale on euro dollar, this is via T commodity. They're bullish about it, saying it's bottomed out. We're last trading at 117.50. Bitcoin. You will remember on the 30th of December I said the optimal portfolio looks like this: long Bitcoin, short gold. That second trade, long Bitcoin, short gold. Look at it here. Bloomberg caught up with that. Bitcoin's torrent of all-time highs is widening the cryptocurrency's record gap with gold. Bitcoin passed 15,000, 1,300. I think it actually. Where are we now? We're at 15,730. We passed 16,000 overnight. It's up more than 50% this month, up 1,300% this year. Jamie at Reuters also posts, look at this velocity of increase has surged in the last 4 weeks. I wrote a piece on the 27th of November, said, wow, what a ride. I was using Hunter S. Thompson. But I'll get to what he said, and I was also quoting Pynchon in that piece, and I was talking about parabola. The parabola is a surge in price when you just lift off. It is a curve each of them feels unmistakably. It is the parabola they must have guessed once or twice, guessed and refused to believe that everything always collectively had been moving forward toward that purified shape latent in the sky, that shape of no surprise, no second chance, no return. Price behavior it's exhibiting on different exchanges. Take a look at this Bitcoin flash rally and flash crash. Highlight worries as futures trading nears. Price zooms up to almost $20,000 on Coinbase, then crashes below 16,000. In Zimbabwe, it hit 26,000. So it was a good call, but obviously I did not trade hard enough on it. It should have been a billionaire trade, right? We're working to make the net in the sky and the net on the ground, CEO Daniel Zhang said. This is of Alibaba, about whose chairman I wrote a piece. I said, here comes Ma Yun, aka Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, and Tai Chi master, which he is. Gold beaten down in worst week in 7 months on US rate view. Biggest weekly drop since May. Slumped to an hour 2.5% this week. 6-month chart, let's have a look and you'll see it's fallen away quite dramatically. WTI rose 73 cents to settle at $56.69. We're now at just around the same sort of area. Brent closed at $62.20. My target for Brent is 70. Patrick Chinamasa is seen arriving at the Parliament of Zimbabwe to present the country's 2017 national budget. And according to that, they're going to trim spending, increase tax revenue next year, relax laws that require black citizens hold majority stakes in companies. Measures will reduce Zimbabwe's fiscal deficit to 3.5% of GDP. Other highlights: revenue will increase to $5.07 billion next year from an estimated $4.34 billion this year, as the government seeks to increase tax revenue 17%. Will reduce spending to $5.7 billion from an estimated $6.05 billion in 2017. Going to be difficult if it's an election year. Finance Ministry forecast total debt of $14.5 billion, or 74% of GDP, and they see it declining to 66% of GDP by 2020. They're saying indigenization law, which demands 51 to 49% of the threshold in favor of locals to apply only to diamond and platinum mining, positive step. I wrote a piece which was, I'd call the genies out of the bottle, and I was saying they needed to be more inclusive. They're playing a much narrower game, and I think that's a suboptimal political strategy, personally. And I think at some point they won't be able to, hold that together. The House is almost full as the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Mudenda, walks in. Some opposition backbenchers shout safety guaranteed. So they're targeting a deficit below 4%, looking to achieve GDP growth of 4.5%, scaled up funding for agriculture and implementation of reforms. 37 countries require external assistance for food, 29 in Africa. That's from the FAO. The Economist, in a hard-hitting article in The latest economist says the choice that could save South Africa or wreck it, saying its people deserve better. The Rainbow Nation still has the potential to be a beacon of prosperity and good governance in Africa, but memories of its hopeful birth are a melancholy counterpoint to its dark present. The best chance for recovering that optimism is a victory for Mr. Ramaphosa. South African oil share, which was hitting records because of NASPA's and Tencent, has fallen back a little bit. It's still up 14.53% year to date, but obviously the woes of Steinhoff are affecting that index. Dollar Rand 13.75. Let's see where we go from here. Nigerian oil share up 47.11%. This is October 2014 highs. Hoya Wolf, who I've been following for eternity on Twitter, says it's a foggy day morning in Abuja. The Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 48.51% year to date. Pernod Ricard confident about Africa despite turbulent times. Interesting article there as well. Malawi lost around 200 megawatts of hydro-generated electricity supply on Wednesday night, leaving the southern African country in a near total darkness. The country's total installed capacity stands at 351 megawatts. Put up two photographs I took last year when I visited when the evening is spread out against the sky. This is Insect Bay, Chirombo Bay, Malawi, and another is a photograph of a beach scene at Lake Malawi. Yesterday I attended the Japanese embassy celebration of the occasion of the birthday of His Majesty the Emperor of Japan. I'd like to thank His Excellency Toshitsugu Usawa for the invitation. And that was a wonderful, very short 20-second rendition of the Kenyan national anthem. You can have a listen to that. Raila Odinga's blistering response to Western nations over silence on police killings. This is a video link, 1.5 minutes NTV. And he's railing against Western countries who are against his swearing in as the people's president. Odinga said the US and other countries that have advised against the December 12 inauguration should know that the will of the people cannot be stopped. Those busy condescendingly, this is a tweet from him, giving Kenyans advice should in the same breath call out those responsible for these deaths. These are the deaths of people who were caught in the crossfire of protests in most cases. The people's investment of the presidency in Raila Odinga under these circumstances is in fact, in my view, a political farce. Swearing in an alternative president of Kenya would be an act of treason, the country's Attorney General said on Thursday. Kenya's economic growth has slowed down in 2017. Take a look at this Kenyan economic update from the World Bank. Kenya's deficit highest in over 5 years at 9%. It's not good. Financial services registered slow growth in 2017. We know why. Shumpert a moment. What affected the manufacturing sector in 2017, where the president's putting quite a bit of emphasis going forward? Kenya's agricultural production dipped in 2017 on account of the drought. You know, agriculture is so central to the well-being of economies on the continent. Tourism, Kenyan economic update, that did well and underpinned tourism, ICT and infrastructure. Close to 30% of M-Shwari microloans are granted between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. It's interesting, isn't it? Kenya shilling at a 9-month high, 102.91. Nairobi all share up 31.3% year to date. NSE 20 up 17.76% year to date. The biggest cap stock, Safaricom, actually is just 25 cents. It's trading 25 cents below a record closing high from last month of 28. Once again, thank you. Wishing you a great weekend.